The royal test begins. The floor beneath Daniel's boots pulsed with light, blue, then violet, then a color he didn't have a name for. He stood frozen in the center of a glowing ring, surrounded by 12 armored alien sentinels. They towered over him, faceless behind shimmering helmets, unmoving yet suffocating in their presence. A cold voice echoed around the chamber. "Proceed!" Across the room, a translucent veil shimmered behind which sat the Queen. And in front of him, her. The alien girl stepped forward, trembling, slender, graceful, with skin that shimmered like moonlight on water. Her eyes, black with glowing flecks, locked onto his. "Daniel Cross," she said, her voice soft but charged like static. "Before lightning, you've been summoned to the Hall of Judgment. The Queen doubts your loyalty to our people." Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but the chamber silenced him. Literally, no sound left his throat. The girl stepped closer. "There is only one way to prove yourself now," she continued, her gaze flickering toward the Queen's veil. "Only the sacred ritual can confirm your truth." His heart hammered. He'd been briefed before coming about diplomacy, observation, cultural exchange. Nothing about rituals, and certainly not this. She swallowed hard, her hands clenched at her sides. "The Queen demands mating." The chamber pulsed once, acknowledging the word. Mating. Daniel's breath caught. "She can't mean—" "It is not what your kind imagines," she said quickly, sensing his panic. "It's a neural bond, a complete merge of thought and memory. If you lie, if you hide, she'll know, and you won't survive it." Daniel stared at her. Sarai, they'd called her. His translator, his guide, his only connection to this world. Now she stood before him, not as an ally, but as a test. "Why me?" he finally managed to whisper, barely audible. Sarai's eyes shifted, pained. "Because you're the only one who made it through the scan without breaking." A beat of silence. Then she extended her hand. The ring around him widened to let her in. The guards did not move. "If you agree," she said, "the ritual begins. Your memories, emotions, fears, they'll all be exposed, as will mine. We will become known to each other." Daniel took a breath. 1,000 thoughts ran through his head. Earth, the fragile alliance, the eyes of the galaxy on this very moment. And then he stepped forward. Their hands met. The chamber dimmed. A surge of warmth, then fire, rushed through his skull. His knees buckled. His thoughts split like glass, then reformed. He saw a child hiding in a crystal tunnel, a council screaming about human contamination, a girl watching Earth broadcasts in secret, laughing, crying. Then, suddenly, Sarai's voice inside him. "I didn't choose you. I didn't want this, but I couldn't let them kill you." Daniel staggered, gasping, but couldn't pull away. Her hand was now a part of him. Energy crackled along their joined fingers. The Queen remained still behind her veil. Another memory. Blinding. Sarai standing before the Queen, defiant. "He deserves a chance. He's not like the others." "Then you will prove it," the Queen had said. "You will bear the risk." Daniel blinked, back in the present. "You risked yourself for me," but Sarai was crying now, not tears. Her eyes shimmered, leaking silver streaks. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't tell you the whole truth." The chamber shifted again. The ring around them began to close, solid, seamless, glowing. "What's happening?" Daniel shouted. "The ritual has started," Sarai said, voice trembling. "And once it begins, neither of us can leave." Daniel reached for her, but the air thickened, buzzing, pushing back. "You said it's a neural merge," he said, teeth clenched. "But what does it do?" She looked up, haunted. "It decides." "Decides what?" "Whether you're worthy." Daniel's head reeled. This is insane. This is diplomacy. And then came the pain. His mind stretched wide. He was outside himself, watching from 100 angles. He saw the Queen's face for the first time, sharp, regal, and cold. Saw the audience beyond the veil, hidden beings observing in silence. And then he was inside Sarai. Not just her mind, her life. He felt her. Childhood shame, her longing to be seen, her fascination with human emotion, the beat of her heart when she first shook his hand. The fear she felt standing beside him in this very room. Then came the darker memories, experiments on human captives, trials, lies. He saw himself, on a screen, evaluated like an animal. The only one who smiled during the psychic scan. The only one who felt instead of fought. He was chosen, not as a symbol of trust, but as an anomaly. Why show me this? He shouted inside the link. Sarai's voice echoed in his skull. Because the Queen doesn't want you to succeed. She wants to prove you're dangerous. But then why let this happen? She hesitated. Because if you survive, you'll prove her wrong. And then her body jerked violently. Daniel's hand was wrenched away. Sarai convulsed, collapsing to her knees. Light rippled across her skin, first pale blue, then violet, then gold. Gasps echoed in the chamber. The guards took a step back. Sarai screamed, then went limp, and her skin shifted. Gone was the shimmering, soft hue of her cast. What replaced it was radiant, sharp-lined, unmistakable, royal markings. Daniel stared. "You're one of them?" Silence, then whispers. Telepathic waves rolling through the room. The Queen's voice, sharp and amused. "Did you think I would risk a commoner?" Daniel knelt beside Sarai, still breathing but unconscious. Her hand twitched toward his, as if even now she sought his touch. And then the Queen rose. Slow, deliberate, she stepped through the veil for the first time. Her eyes bore into Daniel. "You think this was about mating?" she said coldly. "No, human, this was about trust, and you just linked minds with the most dangerous heir our kind has ever produced." The floor trembled. From above, lights dimmed as the chamber ceiling opened, revealing a swirling black sky. "Now," the Queen said, "we'll see if you survive the truth. What mating really means." Daniel's breath came in shallow gasps as the chamber's dark ceiling swallowed the sky above, leaving only the cold hum of alien technology. The Queen's eyes, sharp and unreadable, pinned him in place. Beside him, Sarai's body lay still, her skin flickering softly between her usual shimmering hue and the golden royal markings that marked her as something far more dangerous than any ordinary emissary. The air was thick, charged with tension, ancient power, and the weight of a ritual Daniel barely understood. Then, without warning, the chamber pulsed with light again, and a thin wave of energy surged through Daniel's body. His knees buckled, but this time, instead of pain, a strange calm flooded over him. His mind was no longer his own. The merge begins. The world around him dissolved. Colors bled together, shapes stretched and folded into themselves until Daniel found himself standing on a vast, endless plain. Except this place was not real. It was a mental projection, a shared space created by the ritual. Sarai appeared. Beside him, though this was not the girl he had seen moments ago. Here, in the shared consciousness, she was larger than life, her form glowing with energy and raw emotion. "Welcome," she said quietly. "This is the true beginning." Daniel blinked, trying to process what was happening. Why am I here? What is this place?" Sarai's eyes softened. "It is where minds meet, where truths cannot be hidden, where loyalty is tested beyond words." She reached out, and Daniel felt her thoughts ripple into his own, like gentle waves. Memories, not their own. Suddenly, Daniel was no longer himself. Visions flooded his mind, memories that weren't his, but hers. A child hiding in the crystalline tunnels beneath the Queen's palace, trembling as guards marched by, their heavy boots clanking against stone. The child was Sarai. He felt her fear, confusion, and a strange longing for freedom. Then the visions changed. A council of alien elders argued heatedly over the human problem, calling humans deceptive, dangerous, untrustworthy. Daniel saw flashes of Earth, television broadcasts, faces filled with hope and despair, the fragile beauty of blue oceans and green forests, but overlaying it all was suspicion, the weight of her choice back in the shared space. Sarai's voice trembled. They never wanted me to live. When I showed sympathy for humans, they cast me aside. They called me a traitor. Daniel's heart ached at the raw honesty. But you didn't choose me, did you? You were forced into this ritual. She nodded, her glow dimming. The scan chose you. You were the only one who passed without breaking. They hoped you'd fail, so they could justify ending Earth's alliance. Daniel swallowed hard. What kind of scan? It's part of the mating ritual, Sarai explained. But it's more than that. It's a genetic bond. When two minds merge, their DNA is evaluated. It's how we trust each other. If you lie or hide, the bond rejects you, sometimes violently. Daniel's mind raced. The ritual was no simple test. It was a life-or-death gamble. And if I fail, Sarai's eyes filled with sorrow, then Earth loses. And I may not survive either. The Queen's true intentions. Suddenly, the shared space trembled, and the figure of the Queen appeared, looming and regal. You have seen much already, she said coldly. But you understand nothing. Her voice sliced through the calm, sharp and accusing. The ritual is not just to test you, human. It is a weapon to root out weakness in our kind. Daniel's vision sharpened, and he realized the Queen was watching, probing, seeking any sign of deception. Sarai took a step forward. You hope he fails, Mother. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Because his success would undo everything I've built. An unexpected connection. Daniel looked at Sarai. No, longer just an alien guide, but a woman caught between duty and desire, fear and hope. Their minds pulsed in unison, sharing thoughts and emotions with startling intimacy. I'm not your enemy, Daniel said softly. Sarai smiled, a fragile, bittersweet curve of her lips. Neither am I yours. Suddenly, a violent jolt rocked the shared space. Sarai's form flickered, her glow shifting wildly between her normal and royal states. I'm losing control, she gasped. The hidden truth revealed. In that moment, Daniel saw something impossible. Beneath the surface of Sarai's shimmering skin, a hidden form was emerging, one of regal power and ancient lineage. She was not just the Queen's daughter, she was the heir to a throne burdened by centuries of secrets and betrayals. The realization hit Daniel like a thunderclap. The ritual was never about loyalty alone. It was a struggle for survival, of a people, of a planet, and of the fragile bond between two species. Cliffhanger ending, the shared space cracked, fracturing like glass. Sarai's voice echoed, distant and desperate. Once you cross this line, there is no going back. And then the world snapped back. Daniel found himself alone in the chamber once more. Sarai collapsed on the floor, her breathing shallow but steady. The Queen stood above them, her gaze like ice. The next stage awaits. The next stage awaits. Daniel's knees hit the cold floor hard as Sarai's form collapsed beside him. The lingering hum of the chamber's technology vibrated through the air, an eerie soundtrack to a game he didn't fully understand. The Queen's shadow loomed over them, sharp and uncompromising. You have passed the first test, human, she said, her voice as cold as steel. But now the true trial begins, one that will force you both to confront the secrets that bind your fates. Daniel's mind raced. Secrets, trials, what else could be worse than what I just endured? He glanced at Sarai. Her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. The shimmering light around her flickered weakly, but her eyes held a fierce determination. "We are ready," she whispered, though her voice was barely audible. The Queen's lips curved into a cruel smile. "Good, because this stage will decide everything." The chamber transforms. Without warning, the chamber shifted. The cold metal walls melted away like fog, replaced by a sprawling, alien landscape stretching endlessly in every direction. Strange plants with glowing leaves swayed in a breeze Daniel couldn't feel. Above, twin suns burned in a purple sky. Daniel felt his pulse quicken. This wasn't just a projection or simulation, it felt real, too real. The Queen's voice echoed. "Through the vastness, this is the true heart of our world, the ancient valley where our ancestors once forged the bond of loyalty. Here, you will prove your worth." Sarai took Daniel's hand, her touch warm and grounding. "Stay close. We don't know what dangers lurk here." The trial of trust. They walked forward cautiously, their footsteps muffled on soft alien moss. As they moved deeper into the valley, Daniel's thoughts churned. The ritual was supposed to test loyalty through mating, but it felt like so much more, a test of trust, of character, and of survival. Suddenly, the ground trembled. From the mist emerged towering figures, massive stone guardians carved with symbols Daniel couldn't decipher. Their eyes glowed with an inner light as they stepped forward, blocking the path. The Queen's voice cut through the tension. "To proceed, you must prove your unity." Daniel looked at Sarai, searching for answers. She nodded. "We face this together. No secrets, no lies." Facing the Guardians as the stone giants approached, Daniel and Sarai instinctively linked hands. Tighter. The energy pulsing between them hummed louder, a bond forged not just by ritual, but by growing trust. The largest Guardian raised a massive stone hand, and Daniel felt a wave of heat surge through him. Images flashed in his mind, moments. From his past, fears he had buried deep, failure, loss, loneliness. Sarai's mind reached out, steadying him. "You are not alone." With that, Daniel met the Guardian's gaze. "I am here," he said aloud, voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. "Not just for myself, but for her, for Earth, and for all of us." The Guardian's eyes pulsed. Brighter, then slowly it stepped aside. The hidden threat relieved but wary, Daniel and Sarai moved deeper into the valley. The atmosphere grew heavier, filled with whispers that seemed to swirl in the wind, voices of ancestors long gone, warning and urging them onward. Suddenly, Sarai froze. "Something's wrong," she said, scanning the horizon. Before Daniel could react, a dark shape darted from the shadows, a lithe alien creature with sharp claws and glowing red eyes. It lunged at them, swift and silent. Daniel grabbed Sarai, pushing her aside. The creature hissed, its teeth bared. The fight for survival, Daniel's heart hammered. He wasn't trained for combat, but survival instincts kicked in. He grabbed a nearby branch, swinging it with all his might. The creature snarled but dodged, circling them like a predator. Sarai's glow flared, and energy crackled around her fingertips. "Stay back," she warned, releasing a blast of light that sent the creature staggering. The creature retreated, but not before a sharp claw grazed Daniel's arm, burning with alien venom. Pain exploded, sharp and searing. Daniel clenched his teeth, refusing to fall. The bond deepens as the pain spread. Daniel felt Sarai's hands on his wound, her touch soothing and warm. The venom wasn't just poison, it was testing him, probing for weakness. But as their bond deepened, Daniel felt strength rising within him. His vision blurred, but a newfound clarity settled over his mind. He wasn't just a human caught in an alien ritual. He was part of something bigger. The Queen's voice echoed, distant and menacing. Only the worthy survive. An unexpected ally. Just when it seemed the creature would strike again, a sudden roar filled the valley. From the mist appeared another figure, tall, armored, with eyes that gleamed with fierce loyalty. Enough, the stranger commanded. The creature hissed and fled into the shadows. Daniel and Sarai turned to see a warrior stepping forward, a member of Sarai's people, but different. His armor bore the insignia of a rebel faction, opposed to the Queen's. "Harsh rule, I am Kale," the warrior said, eyes locking onto Daniel. "You don't understand what you're facing. The Queen's trials are deadly. She uses them to eliminate threats, not find allies." Sarai's eyes widened. "Kale, you shouldn't be here." Kyle shook his head. "I'm here because you need help. If you fail, Earth will pay the price." The stakes unfold. Daniel looked from Kale to Sarai, then back to the ominous valley. The ritual wasn't just a test. It was a battlefield, a struggle for power, a fight to save two worlds from destruction, and Daniel was caught in the middle. Cliffhanger. Ending, the Queen's voice cut sharply through the air. "You have one final choice. Surrender and accept your fate, or defy me and risk everything." Daniel's gaze hardened. He tightened his grip on Sarai's hand. "We won't surrender." The valley trembled, and the next stage of the ritual began. Defying the Queen's command, the valley's ground shook beneath Daniel's feet as the Queen's ominous voice reverberated through the alien landscape. The air was thick with tension. Every breath felt heavy, as if the very atmosphere pressed down on them. "Defy me," she had said. The words hung like a challenge, sharp and unforgiving. Daniel looked at Sarai, whose eyes flickered with a mix of fear and fierce determination. The faint glow of her energy seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. Kyle stood slightly apart, his posture rigid but alert, watching the shadows as if expecting more threats to emerge. The price of rebellion, Daniel's mind raced. The Queen's tests were more than ritual. They were mechanisms of control, weapons to keep her power unchallenged. "If we refuse," Kyle said quietly, "she will unleash her enforcers. We won't survive long here." Sarai's gaze met Daniel's. "Then we don't have a choice. We must fight, not just for ourselves, but for the truth, for our people, and for Earth." Daniel swallowed hard. The fear was real, but so was the resolve building inside him. "Then let's show her what humans are made of." The valley shifts. Suddenly, the valley itself seemed to respond to their defiance. The alien flora writhed and shimmered as if alive, forming barriers and twisting pathways that closed behind them. Kale motioned urgently. "We need to move. This place is shifting to trap us." They ran, weaving through the alien vegetation that glowed with eerie colors under the twin suns. Strange creatures watched from the shadows, their eyes reflecting curiosity and suspicion. As they pressed forward, Sarai's voice dropped to a whisper. "The Queen's power extends beyond these trials. She controls the very essence of this place." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then we have to break her hold." Secrets revealed in a sudden clearing. Kyle stopped and pulled out a small device, flickering with holographic images. "This is why I came," Kyle said, voice low. "Proof of the Queen's true intentions." He activated the device, and images filled the air. Vast fleets of ships, weaponized drones, and sprawling colonies consuming entire planets. "She plans to conquer," Kyle said grimly. "Not just our world, but Earth too." Daniel stared in disbelief. "But why involve me? Why the tests?" Kyle shook his head. "Because humans have something she fears. Resilience, unpredictability, and the power to unite." The bonds that bind Sarai stepped forward, eyes shining. "And because our bond is stronger than her chains." Daniel felt a warmth spread. Through him, a connection to Sarai that transcended the alien rituals. They were more than participants in a cruel game. They were partners in rebellion. Kyle nodded. We need to find others who oppose her. Together we stand a chance. The Queen's wrath? Could they survive their own fears and doubts? The Queen's reach one evening, while reviewing plans, an alarm blared through the base. Detection of a Queen's scout ship entering the system, Vela announced grimly. We have little time. Daniel's blood ran cold. The Queen's surveillance was relentless. Kyle clenched his fists. She's closing in. A risky mission. Vela laid out a plan to intercept the scout ship and disable it before it could report back. Daniel volunteered. I want to be part of this. Sarai placed a hand on his shoulder. We do this together. The mission was dangerous, deep into enemy territory, with no margin for error. Into the shadows boarding a sleek stealth craft, Daniel, Sarai, Kyle, and Vela launched into the dark expanse of space. The tension was palpable. Every moment could be their last. Unexpected betrayal as they neared the scout ship. Sensors detected a hidden signal. Suddenly, Vela's weapon turned on the group, blaster aimed directly at them. You were fools to trust us, Vela sneered, her face twisting into something cold and alien beneath the helmet. Daniel's heart. He pounded, betrayed. The fight for survival chaos erupted. Daniel and Sarai ducked as blaster fire tore through the cockpit. Kale lunged at Vela, grappling her weapon away. The scout ship lurched wildly as the crew fought for control. The truth revealed. With Vela subdued, Kyle ripped off her helmet, revealing the shocking truth. She wasn't human, but a loyal agent of the Queen, planted to infiltrate and sabotage. Daniel's mind reeled. How deep did the Queen's influence go? The final choice. The cockpit trembled violently as the scout ship spun wildly through the atmosphere of a barren moon. Warning lights flashed, alarms screamed, and the distant roar of the Queen's forces echoed relentlessly in Daniel's ears. Hold on, Kale shouted, gripping the controls. His hands moved with practiced precision, but the damage was severe, the ship's systems failing one by one. Sarai braced herself, her eyes locked on Daniel. We can't lose hope now. The race against time. Daniel's breath came in ragged gasps. The Queen's spy, Vela, had betrayed them, and now they were hurtling toward a catastrophic crash that could end everything. Engage emergency thrusters, Kyle commanded. I'll try to stabilize the descent. Minutes felt like hours. The hull groaned under immense pressure as the ship plummeted, barely responding to Kale's desperate maneuvers. Suddenly, with a violent jolt, the ship skidded across the rocky surface, tearing through alien terrain before finally coming to a rest, damaged but intact, facing the Queen. The silence that followed was almost worse than the chaos. Outside, the shadows deepened as Queen's warships gathered overhead, ominous and unyielding. Daniel forced himself to stand, determination blazing in his eyes. This ends now. Sarai nodded, her energy glowing brighter than ever. Kyle pulled. Up a holographic map. The Queen's stronghold lay ahead, a fortress of secrets and power. We have to confront her, to end this cycle. The infiltration. They moved swiftly through alien corridors, shadows their allies as they avoided patrols. Sarai's connection to the alien technology gave them an edge, allowing doors to slide open silently and traps to be disarmed. Each step drew them closer to the Queen, but also deeper into the heart of danger. The Queen's challenge at the throne room's entrance. The air thickened with tension. The Queen awaited regal and imposing, radiating authority. So the rebels arrive, she said smoothly, voice like silk wrapped in steel. You defy me because of loyalty? She asked, eyes piercing Daniel's soul. Prove it. The final test. But this time, the Queen's demand wasn't about mating rituals or dominance. No, Daniel said, voice steady. It's about choice. Free will, the right to decide one's own destiny. The Queen's expression flickered. a mixture of anger and curiosity. You speak of freedom, yet you bind yourself with chains of your own making. Daniel stepped forward. True loyalty isn't blind obedience, it's respect, trust, and sacrifice. Sarai reached out, intertwining her hand with Daniel's. We choose each other, not because we must, but because we want to. The turning point. The Queen's power surged, filling the room with blinding light. For a moment it seemed all would be lost. Then, a subtle change. The Queen's fierce gaze softened, her posture shifting. "You are different," she whispered. "Perhaps. Humanity holds the key I've sought. A new alliance instead of destruction." The Queen extended her hand, a gesture of truce. The walls that once divided their worlds began to crumble. Daniel, Sarai, and Kale realized that survival depended not on domination, but on unity. Together, they forged a new path, one where humans and aliens could thrive side by side. Epilogue. A lesson for all back on Earth. Daniel looked up at the stars, a quiet smile on his lips. The journey had been perilous, full of betrayal, fear, and impossible choices. But through it all, one truth remained clear. Loyalty is not about control or submission. It is about freedom, trust, and the courage to choose what's right, even when it defies expectations. And in that choice lies the true power to change worlds. The end.